Hi, Emily.
Hey, Brandon.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well. Well, I'm super excited to be chatting with you today. I've known you for a long time now. I mean, I think it's safe to say that we're the equivalent of, for a period of our career, if we were ballet dance partners, we could say we were the modern dance version of that when we were dancing together.
Yeah, yeah.
We've danced a lot together, and I've danced for you with your own company, and you're a huge part of Dance Device Lab, so I'm excited to share your insight and expertise with our network.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for asking me to talk.
Of course. So these chats are all based around the idea that all of us came from a dance studio. We all started at a dance studio somewhere in this country or around the world. So why don't you walk me through your early childhood dance training, what you did as a young dancer, where you went to school, sort of just like your little bit of background, and then how you became Emily Schoen.
Well, I was born Emily Schoen. To be fair. So I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, Brookfield, Wisconsin. It's a suburb of Milwaukee. And I started dancing at a studio, like many of us did, Accent on Dance in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And I did, ballet, modern, or no, not really, just a little bit of modern. I did ballet, jazz, tap, lyrical back in the day, a dash of hip hop through conventions, kind of we had the whole package, the whole studio package. And I loved it. The studio was, I think, a little bit more simplistic than studios are nowadays, perhaps.
Yeah.
We did a recital at the end of the year, and it wasn't until I was 9 or 10 that the studio started competing. And so I was one of the junior dancers when we were going to competitions. And I loved that. We started at the conventions that were smaller in that time, Dance Olympics, Dance America,
right.
And then started progressing to other conventions as I got a little bit older. So I did the whole thing. I did all the conventions, all the competitions. We started doing regionals and nationals. And I loved it. It was awesome. It was super fun. It was a doorway into performing a lot and getting my stage chops. I also started doing a little bit of choreography for the studio when I was in high school. So that was fun. It was kind of an extra way to...
Was it more jazzy stuff, or was it what we know Emily Schoen's choreography to be now?
So jazzy.
Yeah.
I even choreographed a hip-hop dance.
Oh my gosh.
I decided to go to University of Arizona. Far away from home, which was, I was excited about that, but that wasn't the goal necessarily. And I loved that program because the caliber of dancers was super high, super technical base for the training. Lots of performance opportunities. I think they had like 17 performance weekends a year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a ton.
That's great.
Yeah.
There's something so communal about starting a dance company. I've been a part of the journey of yours, and like you said, for so many people, it's just, I got my friends together and made a dance, and it's like, and then it sort of blossoms and snowballs from there. And it reminds me of the relationships that dancers and teachers have at their studios. It's like a small knit community. It is a family, and there is this sort of energy of like, well, we're all here together and we can do it, and it's like, I think it's really important to introduce those ideas even sooner. Like if we could introduce these ideas of like creative practices and choreography in studios where you are in a safe space to sort of explore with your friends and family, I think that could be an interesting route. Do you have thoughts on that? Like if you had started that sooner versus, later?
Absolutely. I think if I were a younger dancer, getting those tools, I would have just had that much more time for them to marinate, right?
And
So,
you have such a unique voice. I know in Emily Schoen dance, there's such a through line in all your work. And one thing that you do so well that always boggles my mind is how fast you can generate movement. You can whip out a 2-minute phrase in. Yeah, I mean, and it is part of the hustle. Like, we've got studio space, we're on a budget, we are making it happen, and you have developed this way, whether you use it or not, but you can generate material. So I wonder if you have advice for a younger dancer that, or maybe even just some little nuggets of inspiration for teachers and choreographers at studios that also have to generate a lot of material. They have to produce a lot throughout the year, and if you have any tips on how to create movement rapidly that you
I think that's actually something that I haven't always done. I think that, I'm super fast in the studio, and that's normal for me now.
Yeah.
But I think there was a change for me in how that came about, because when I was a younger dancer and a younger choreographer, college, a little bit in high school, I always thought that the phrase was the most important part. So I would spend a lot of time making a phrase that I thought was perfect, that, was interesting and maybe different, and, unexpected, whatever. I'd spend a lot of time there making it the most maximally musical, etc. And then I think as I've gotten further along in my career, I realized that the phrase isn't the golden nugget in some ways. It's the phrase, you just need material. You need material out there, and then once you have material, then you shape it, then you craft it, then you edit it, then maybe you musicalize it. So my process is inverted. And I think that actually might be because I'm a concert dancer and a concert choreographer instead of a commercial choreographer. I think commercial choreography is probably more, the phrase is your money, right?
Sure.
Is your golden nugget, as I said before. But for me, it's a lot more layered. It's not simply make a phrase, put it on stage.
Right.
Phrase is the starting point. Then you make it a duet. Then you break it apart and flip the facing and maybe retrograde part of it or stuff like that. It's
like you learn that you don't actually need that many steps to be able to remix it and make something out of it.
That's true too. Yeah, but I think even more than that, and maybe this comes from watching dance a lot too, and fine-tuning my eye. I realize that when I see a dance, it's more about the zoomed out piece, right? We're talking pieces, it's about the zoomed out approach and the whole. Is there a narrative? Is there not? How do you feel as an audience member after the fact?
Right.
I'm not zoomed in and watching okay, what is Brandon Cornet doing in this moment on stage?
Right.
And it took a while to learn that.
Yeah.
That's totally different than what you think of when you're growing up.
Right. And I wonder if you'd agree with this. I just thought of this. It's when you are dancing your own work, or if you're and actively dancing and you're making the phrase, and like you said, it's you're so in tune with how it feels, but it's actually the moment where you remove yourself and you have to see how it looks. It doesn't matter how it feels to the dancer. It's it's a visual art form, So it's the entire phrase doesn't need to be perfect. Maybe the awkward moment can bring some, bring a mistake or bring a pivot point, which is interesting.
Totally.
Yeah, your dance company, Schoen Movement Company, has had a very incredible collaboration with Dance Motion USA and through your Tunisia project. I wonder if you could sort of explain that project, A, and B, I know we did a dance motion together, so we can chat about it, but I want to touch base on how the dance world as a global thing is connected, and the similarities and differences, having worked with many different cultures and you taking the initiative to continue that collaboration.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I'll try to be to the point because it's also a long story. But as a dancer with Schoen Movement Company, we were invited to go on a tour that was sponsored by the U.S. State Department and facilitated by the Brooklyn Academy of Music and Dance Motion USA. And our tour was to 3 countries in Africa: Cote d'Ivoire, Ethiopia, and Tunisia.
Yeah.
So we were going to many different arts centers and teaching them some of our American modern dance and learning some of their whatever their dance was.
Mm-hmm.
And in Cote d'Ivoire and Ethiopia, we were learning primarily traditional forms of dance, of African dance. And it was all very different. There's not one type of, like, this is African dance. Like, it was vastly different all across
Absolutely.
countries and, between countries.
Yeah.
Then we got to Tunisia, and all of a sudden we were working with dancers who could speak a common movement language with us. And so we had a 10-day residency there. We created work with them, and I thought, you know what, like, there's a real opportunity here because we are so different, right? Us Americans and Tunisians don't even speak the same language sometimes. I mean, a lot of them had English, but a lot didn't at all. And so we're kind of working together with movement as our language.
Mm-hmm.
And I, was well into doing my own projects with my company, and I thought, you know what, this is really cool. We only had 10 days there. What if I go back with my group and work with a smaller group of dancers from Tunisia? At our workshop we had, do you remember? It was 50.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
And it's fast, right?
Right.
So dive in and excavate more,
Mm-hmm.
learn about each other more, and really see what comes out.
Right.
So we went back for 2 weeks. We created I think that iteration was a 25-minute piece.
Mm-hmm.
Again, working fast.
Right.
And that was super fast because you lose a lot of time when not everyone speaks English.
Totally.
Especially because we're strangers when we're starting, right? Like, we're strangers. Culturally strangers, too. It's like, what's appropriate? How can you partner?
Well, and 2 very familiar small groups of people coming together really quickly, takes time for that. I'm sure it got there, but that takes time for that to sort of, those social barriers and the national barriers to, mix up.
Right, and it's a 99% Muslim country,
Mm-hmm.
so there's different norms. I mean, we weren't sure, what's appropriate for partnering,
right?
And plus me as a female leading this international group,
right?
Men are more typically in charge there. And yes, things are changing there. It's the home of the Arab Spring, and where that all started, 8 years ago now, 9? So women definitely have a more prominent place in society now, and that's great. But I'm a foreigner. I'm white. I'm a female, and I'm moving fast.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Get with people. Yeah.
Did you feel any resistance from that, or was that
I felt very comfortable within the dancers. But there were cultural challenges in coordinating with the theater, more organizational things that had to do with logistics.
Right.
I couldn't even really have a meeting with the theater director because he wouldn't do it. I mean, yes, he also only spoke Arabic and French, so I couldn't if I wanted to, but I had heard of the Foreign Service officer having the same problem as a female movie with him. So there were little quirks there from older generations.
Yeah.
I will say, though, that Tunisians are the nicest people in the world.
Yeah.
So anyways, so at the end of this residency, we had a live stream broadcast. Dance Motion USA sent out a videographer who took care of the live stream for us, which was amazing. And it was a big success. It was watched by people in over 30 countries, and great viewership, really lively Q&A, and translated to 3 languages after the fact. So from there, we decided, okay, let's try to continue this, maybe develop it into an evening-length work. So then I got to work securing visas. With choreographing, that show was really interesting because I was not giving them the whole cast, not just the men, moves. Right? It was. I think I even tried it, and it was just super inappropriate because it didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't work at all.
Yeah.
So in the phase 3 of this, when we have the Tunisians in New York, I remember I had a really fond memory of coaching one dancer, Monam Kemis, and he's one that doesn't speak English too, so this is extra fun. And he's an amazing improviser, but what's hard for him is setting something, right? He's brilliant at just kind of feeling his music and going for it.
True artist.
Yeah, but if you're like, okay, good, let's like set it.
Yeah. Someone's got to enter over here, and like we gotta like make a pattern.
Right, and his facings keep changing. Like it's funny, but it was really fun for me to choreograph with him because I would watch him improvise and I would film it, and then I would go back with him, look at the film, and say like, okay, I like this, I like how you did this, and I like how you did this later, and I like how you did this later. Let's take those 3 anchors and I will help you find a transition between those 3 anchors, and then let's do it again.
I love that. A, that's like such a great tool for a creative process, and B, what a great lesson in using what is in front of you and making the dancer shine.
Totally.
Like,
I mean, plus the stuff that he was doing, I couldn't, in my wildest dreams, do it. My body doesn't do that, right? Nor do I have that training. It's not just about why my training is the best. No, like he has stuff that I could never dream of having. So it's like, how can we find the best of both worlds? And let the choreography shine, let him shine. And we premiered an evening length work that we pulled from our original piece, but it was essentially new. An evening length work that shared a lot of stories, recorded stories from the dancers' lives. To kind of show, if you grew up in Wisconsin, if you grew up in Texas, if you grew up in Tunisia, if you grew up in Algeria, we had one Algerian dancer, the important things in your life are common.
Yeah. And like, what a cool experience. When do you ever get to revisit something and really dive into it more than once? And you got to create this incredible, powerful piece of art, sort of reinventing it 3 times in a row, but the broader impact of that is huge, Thank you so much for chatting with us in Dance Device Lab. If you have any final thoughts that you want to share? If not,
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot. I love what you're doing. I think it's great to be bringing this information to studios. When I don't know that a lot of studios have access to this type of professional training. So I think what you're doing is really wonderful.
Great. Well,
keep it up.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm so happy to have you on the team. So
thanks.
Have a great time in Florida, and tell your family hi. And thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll catch you back in New York.
Totally. Bye, Emily.
Bye, Brandon.